Welcome, Gunrunner.
This video is brought to you by a Compendium of MSX Games Volume 1 by H.E.R.O. This paperback book is available to purchase worldwide and features 180 pages of MSX awesomeness with over 300 game reviews from 80s classics to modern homebrews, 3 amazing developer interviews, MSX history, fascinating facts and trivia, and so much more besides, making it an essential companion to the classic home computer. Available exclusively from Amazon, go and grab yourself a copy right now. So far in my greatest of all time series, we've looked at a string of hugely popular computers like the Atari ST, Atari 8-bit, Commodore Amiga, Sinclair ZX Spectrum and Commodore 64. And all of these had one thing in common: a place in the top 10 greatest home computers of all time as voted for by you, the retro gaming community. But for the first time, I thought it would be interesting to take us away from the top 10 and look at a computer that finished in 15th place in that chart, the MSX. An 8-bit computer that is as unique as it is entertaining, having been created by the combination of Microsoft Japan and the ASCII Corporation, and then licensed to a multitude of different manufacturers around the world in an early attempt to create a common computer standard. Particularly popular in its homeland of Japan, it was also the computer that started the careers of some of the industry's biggest names, making such a list of games even more interesting still. As with previous greatest of all time videos, I put this question to the members of several big retro gaming groups on Facebook, including the hugely popular and very lively Retro Gaming Hysteria, link in the description for those who want to join, as well as my own loyal subscribers, asking them to name their top 5 and the reasons why. Following the same rules as before, I awarded 5 points to your first choice, 4 points to second, and so on and so forth. I then counted up those votes to decide the final placings, and in the case of games having the same number of points, I then went to the number of votes awarded, followed by the number of first place votes to decide the final rankings. Thankfully, I only had to use these tiebreakers once for the whole of the top 20. They came into full effect when I got round to compiling the wider top 40, which, as always, will be a Patreon exclusive video at the end of the month, so now is a good time to sign up. There were several interesting things to pick out from this video, both good and bad, which I want to talk about before we start the countdown. Firstly, I wasn't surprised to see a lower amount of votes for your favourite MSX games when compared to previous greatest of all time videos, but I was surprised at the lack of comments you made to justify your picks, although I suspect the main reason for that was the MSX was most popular in non-English speaking countries like Spain, Japan and the Netherlands. In terms of the games that were chosen, I wasn't exactly shocked to see Konami titles dominate, but I was quite shocked at the lack of games from Namco and Hudson Soft, which includes classics like Pac-Man, Dig Dug and Galaga from the former, and the likes of Bomberman, Star Soldier and Adventure Island from the latter. But that's enough pontificating over the finer points of this video, and it's now time to get on with the show, as I proudly present the 20 greatest MSX games of all time.
Hello, Dad, can I have a computer?
What you need, son, is a up the hooter. Computer's gonna cost me a leg and an arm.
Not the Toshiba pack. Stay calm.
Cost me a bomb. The things you need later.
They're all thrown in. Keep your shirt on, Pater.
What happens next year when it's out of date?
No chance, Dad. This is MSX, mate.
If all that's true, I'm the Queen of Sheba.
And say hello, Tosh, to a new Toshiba.
I mentioned in the intro that Konami dominates here, but I didn't mention that we also see 5 games from the same franchise appear for the very first time, starting with Parodius, which may have originated as a parody of Gradius, but became a mini-series of its own, and it all started right here on the MSX. If you bring up the best games for 8-bit computers in general, then Elite is always a game that gets mentioned, although people rarely bring up the MSX version in particular, and that's a shame, because it's a colour enhanced version of the already amazing ZX Spectrum iteration. Of all the games to appear in this top 20, The Castle by MSX co-creators ASCII Corporation is the only one that I'd never played. Its appearance here has obviously changed that, and I soon discovered a bit of a hidden gem, a great puzzle platformer that was soon followed by an equally excellent sequel. Those of you who follow my channel will remember me featuring Gardic in my 10 amazing MSX exclusives video, and mentioning it's one of my favourite games for the home computer. A really unique title from Shoot 'em Up Specialist Compile, it arguably deserves to be much higher on this list. Like the aforementioned Elite, Chuckie Egg is another game that's more associated with the ZX Spectrum and BBC Micro, but once again it also has a brilliant MSX version too, that was both loved and remembered by enough of you to see it rank in a very credible 16th place in this list. The first arcade port to feature in this list, Kung Fu Master was also the very first scrolling beat 'em up, a genre the MSX isn't exactly blessed with, so that's probably why so many of you wanted to see it featured here. It's the best 8-bit computer version of the classic too, so there's also that. There aren't many classic movies that also have equally classic games based on them, but Konami's The Goonies is one such example. It might only follow the film very loosely, but that doesn't stop it from being a fun and engaging arcade adventure with a heck of a lot of gameplay to get through. Okay, so River Raid is certainly best known as an Atari 2600 game, but it also went on to get enhanced ports to just about every 8-bit machine of the era, MSX included. The non-stop shoot 'em up action and randomly generated landscapes mean this is a game that you'll never get bored of. I bet you were wondering when the Gradius games, as they were known in Japan, would appear, and in 12th place we have Nemesis 3, The Eve of Destruction, which is not only one of the MSX1's greatest shoot 'em ups, it's also one of its most technically impressive games too, as you can no doubt see. And the third game is directly followed by the second game, with Nemesis 2 earning just 1 point more than its sibling. Let's face it, if you're an MSX fan, then you probably own all the Gradius games anyway. But if you somehow needed more validation, then this list confirms their majesty. lots of reasons given for the inclusion of Kings Valley 2, the Seal of El Geyser in your lists. You loved its puzzle platforming mechanics, cute characters, and most of all, its amazing music. It's also worth noting that there's an enhanced version of the game available for the MSX computers too. Also known as Life Force, this spin-off of the Gradius franchise was famed for its rock-hard gameplay. But that wasn't enough to stop you putting Salamander into the top 10. It also ranks as one of the most impressive coin-op conversions out there for the vintage 8-bit computer. F1 Spirit is subtitled The Way to Formula 1, and that tells you a lot about the complexities of this game, because before you can compete for that prestigious F1 World Championship, you have to work your way through the racing ranks. This is still one of my all-time favourite games for the MSX. We've had an awful lot of horizontally scrolling shoot 'em ups on this list so far, so it's great to see a vertically scrolling one instead, in the form of Compiled's awesome Zanak. With its superb visuals, even better audio, and incredibly clever AI, this one more than deserves its 7th place finish. Of all the games Activision ported over to the MSX and the Atari 2600, H.E.R.O, which stands for Helicopter Emergency Rescue Operation, is my favourite, and it looks like the majority of you agree with me, because it only just missed out on making the rather prestigious top 5. The sequel to one of the MSX's most famous and highly regarded games in Nightmare, Maze of Gallius surprised a lot of people when it was released, being a completely different type of game to its more illustrious predecessor, while still managing to continue the same brilliant story. One of Konami's most famous games, Gradius has appeared on numerous different machines. The MSX port is still one of the best remembered and most highly regarded, as its 4th place finish in this list very much shows. It also confirms Konami's dominance of this list, as we move into the final medal places. We've already had the second game, and now it's time for the game that started it all, as the very first Kings Valley title takes the bronze medal. Konami's addictive and engaging puzzle platformer is still a big favourite with MSX fans everywhere, and it's a game that's very much due a comeback in my opinion. My own prediction for the top spot, Konami's iconic vertical scrolling shoot 'em up Nightmare, has to settle for the ranking of runner-up in this list. However, that is no slight on this absolutely brilliant game. In fact, just talking about it makes me want to go fire up my JVC HC7 and slay some of those demons. MSX exclusive sequel to the iconic Antarctic adventure, Penguin Adventure is also notable for being the very first game created by the legendary Hideo Kojima. It improves on the brilliance of the original game in every regard, and I certainly wasn't surprised to see it right here in the top spot.
Konami のハイパーオリンピックでハードルに挑戦中。おっと、母さん、まだ7種目も残ってるんですよ。
MSX 対応ハイパーオリンピック。
And that runs up my look at the 20 greatest MSX games of all time. But which games were you most surprised not to see make the final list? Or are there any games that you don't think were worthy of inclusion in this countdown? I always love to hear the thoughts and views of my audience, so please get typing in that comments section. Before I go though, I must thank all of my loyal patrons who continue to support my channel and make videos like this possible. However, I must give special thanks to the following patrons and YouTube backers in particular, their much appreciated pledges: Grady Haynes, Mitchell Valentino, Seth A. Robinson, Carl Olsen, DOS Gamerman, Sonic Mania 999, Paul Daniel, Andrew McKay, Retro Resolution, Matt Standish, James Taylor, Trogdor the Burninator, Mins, 8-Bit Guy, Luke MC, Ben P. Stein, Colima Torn, Tabby Kitsune, Alan J. Dodds, Daniel Skoronsky, and Electron Star Collapse. If you also want to help support all my creative endeavours, including this YouTube channel, then please go check out my Patreon right now. You can get access to extra content, including downloads, exclusive videos, creative insights, and much more besides. I've been the Laird, I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again for another video very soon.